Outnumbered, outgunned, but never out of courage. This is the mission they tried to forget. Operation Anaconda, Afghanistan's fiercest battle. After 9/11, the U.S. launches Operation Enduring Freedom. In early 2002, intel revealed that hundreds of Taliban and al-Qaeda fighters regrouped in the Shah-e-Khat Valley, eastern Afghanistan. The terrain, steep mountains, harsh winter, enemy strongholds dug into the rocks. The mission, crush them before they could escape. Operation Anaconda was supposed to be a lightning strike. The U.S. would surround the valley with Afghan forces, then hammer the enemy from above. But the plan underestimated one thing: the enemy was ready. Over 1,000 insurgents were heavily armed and dug in. The Americans expected 200. At dawn, U.S. troops air assaulted into the valley. They were immediately ambushed. Machine gun fire, mortars, RPGs rained down from the ridgelines. U.S. helicopters took heavy fire. 2 Chinooks were shot down. This wasn't a strike, it was a trap. During one of the insertions, Navy SEAL Neil C. Roberts fell from a helicopter under fire. Alone on the ridge, he made a stand against overwhelming odds. SEALs and Army Rangers launched a desperate rescue mission. The ridge would later be named Roberts Ridge, a symbol of valor and sacrifice. They thought the insertion was routine, but what happened next would become legend. The first American killed in combat during Operation Anaconda, SEAL Neil C. Roberts. March 4, 2002. A Chinook carrying SEAL Team 6 was ambushed while landing on a hostile ridge. A rocket-propelled grenade struck the aircraft. The ramp was open, and Petty Officer Neil Roberts fell out. Roberts landed hard, wounded, alone, surrounded by al-Qaeda fighters entrenched in bunkers. But he didn't run. He engaged the enemy with everything he had, buying time for his team to return. For over 30 minutes he fought a one-man war on that snowy peak, until he was overrun, but his last stand sparked a daring rescue, a mission that would cost even more lives. SEALs and Air Force Tax Ps returned under heavy fire to retrieve Roberts. One of them, Master Chief Britt Slabinski, led the charge, and was later awarded the Medal of Honor. The ridge was forever renamed Roberts Ridge. Neil C. Roberts was the first SEAL to die in Afghanistan, but he wasn't just a casualty. He was a shield, a signal, and a reminder of what it means to never back down. His courage defined the battle. His sacrifice shaped the war. They left him behind, but he never left the fight. This is the classified truth behind John Chapman's final stand on Takur Ghar. It was March 4, 2002. Operation Anaconda was underway in the rugged mountains of eastern Afghanistan. Tech Sergeant John Chapman, a U.S. Air Force combat controller, was part of a SEAL team insertion on a ridge now infamously known as Roberts Ridge. Their mission: establish a reconnaissance position and direct air support. As their helicopter approached the summit, it came under intense fire from entrenched al-Qaeda fighters. Petty Officer Neil C. Roberts fell from the aircraft. The team was forced to retreat, leaving Roberts behind. A rescue attempt was ordered. Chapman volunteered to go back in. Chapman led the charge into the snowy ridge. He cleared enemy positions, engaging fighters in close-quarters combat. Believed to be mortally wounded during the assault, the SEAL team withdrew, assuming he was dead. But he wasn't. Classified drone footage later revealed the unthinkable. Chapman regained consciousness and kept fighting, alone. He held his position, firing on approaching enemies, buying time for a second team to evacuate. Years later, analysts reviewed the drone footage. What they saw changed everything. John Chapman became the first airman since Vietnam to receive the Medal of Honor posthumously. His heroism had been hidden in pixels, until the truth emerged. He wasn't just a controller calling in airstrikes, he was a one-man defense line. John Chapman fought alone, wounded, surrounded, and outgunned, and he did it for his brothers in arms. They weren't the ones in the headlines, but when the mountain turned red, they were the ones who held the line. Army Rangers of Operation Anaconda. March 2002, Shah-e-Khat Valley. Operation Anaconda wasn't just SEALs and airstrikes, it was also the 75th Ranger Regiment, inserted into a hot zone under withering fire, tasked with clearing enemy strongholds and recovering fallen comrades. The terrain was brutal, elevation favored the enemy, but the Rangers moved with precision, securing peaks, calling in air support and coordinating extractions. When SEAL Neil Roberts fell onto the mountain and the rescue turned chaotic, Rangers from Quick Reaction Force Bravo were rerouted into the heart of hell. They climbed under fire, pulled survivors out, and took the fight directly to enemy cave networks. Several Rangers gave their lives that day. Men like Specialist Mark Anderson and Sergeant Bradley Crows, who fought to cover their brother's retreat and didn't make it home. Media spotlight often misses them, but without the Rangers' courage, precision, and sacrifice, Operation Anaconda may have been a total loss. They weren't forgotten by those who made it back. You know the name Roberts Ridge, but now remember who climbed it. This is for the Rangers, quiet professionals, forever forged in fire. Air Force combat controllers called in close air support non-stop, bombs, A-10 strikes, gunships. Temperatures dropped, communications failed, troops dug in under heavy fire. Soldiers were fighting not just to win but to survive. Some units ran low on ammo and supplies, others held their ground for days. Operation Anaconda exposed flaws in U.S. Joint Command and air-ground coordination. It forced the Pentagon to overhaul special ops coordination, air support integration, and communication across branches. The lessons learned from this operation influenced future missions in Iraq and Afghanistan for years. 8 Americans died, dozens were wounded, hundreds of insurgents were killed. But the legacy? One of brotherhood, grit, and undeniable heroism. Roberts, Chapman, and others were later awarded medals, some posthumously. Their stories live on in the annals of special operations history. If you believe their sacrifice should never be forgotten, subscribe to Strategic Defense Network. This is just one mission in a global war few truly understand.